Oh, let's start off with I'm Kris. I did the editing in this film and a bit of the sound.
And I'm Justin. I helped in sound design, layup, and the editing aspect of things also. ADR, music and effects, Foley, that sort of bizzo.
Settle down. You did some dancing as well, but we're not going to mention it, are we? So anyway, anyway, we're doing Alaina. Great film we did at the when did we do it? Start of 2004.
Yeah, it would have been sort of early to mid-February 2004.
There's the big title. Anyway, here's the pull shot.
Now, this was quite an interesting scene because whenever we decided to put this together, we had quite a theatrical type of background initially, very artificial, but nonetheless it gave some great ideas on how to put the scene together. But there were certain issues with getting splashes with the pool, and of course none of us having a pool available to us at the time had to make sure we delved into the sound banks of those that we knew that were working in the industry and help us out with some copy-free samples.
Yeah, definitely added to the whole soundscape. Which this film just, it's brilliant in sound. Like here, the whole underwater scene, just this great rumble. I guess you'd say the underwater rumble. I think was the name of the sound file we were using. There they are.
It certainly adds to the effect of Alaina, so to speak, slipping into unconsciousness or sneaking off into an alternate reality.
I'd been harbouring a secret desire for the world to go away.
In the editing stage, we deliberately kept the hand stopping there. There was a nice effect. Anyway, she's out. Here we go. Super weird.
One day.
What would you call this? Purgatory?
Certainly, I was actually thinking on putting together the sound files with this, Kris. I remember we had an arduous task getting the sync to line up, even though, as you say, it's quite subliminal in the film later, but certainly adds to the overall effect. But nonetheless, it took certain painstaking adjustments to find it exactly where we wanted it at. And then, of course, then she wants to stroll across the grass. The chafing of thighs, so to speak, getting that in time, the hissing of the barbecue also, that was something very interesting as we move up to the barbecue itself. Initially I was going to put together the sound back on Logic 5.5 in my own home. Unfortunately, due to issues with the operating system, we were having sync problems, but the barbecue was the main point.
Of sync, you say.
Elevating that issue and pointing it right out.
Indeed.
Is anybody in here?
I don't know if you've seen this film before, Justin. I've seen it a couple of times, I think. I think what Adam was really going for was it's a film about turning off appliances. I don't know if you've noticed this. I think we're going to get to this a bit later. But he's outside. This is great. This is the wind that I know you had a lot of issues with. We tried to add it in to get that whole isolated. She's the only one supposedly in the world.
Well, initially, as we said, we had a few issues with certain sound effects, which were terrific for laying the background of the sound, but hell, we really needed a tumbleweed if we were to go initially with what was there. Wouldn't you agree there, Kris?
I reckon we need a tumbleweed in most films. You've got either the tumbleweed or the girl in the bikini, and we had one, but this film could have, pulled in all the Oscars. From watching this film sometime in the past, have you noticed that there's the car there? It's stopped. It's, engine still running. What happened to all the cars that were on the road?
Certainly, well, again, it embellishes that hollow aspect of her life that she's beginning to question. And again, with the cars, if we want to look at it from a more poignant point of view, certainly a holodeck may have been introduced there. But I think it really embellishes what filmmaker Stolfo was trying to get across at that particular point. The emptiness and the loneliness, just again as she passes by the particular restaurant, which I believe was that down in St Kilda?
No, I think it's in Baldwin. But what is interesting is outside you heard her jeans. That sound there is actually from the car scene later. The car scene, which actually doesn't have any original sound, but it does in the restaurant scene. Very interesting. Here we go. Appliance turn off number 2. We don't want to mention Jean not being able to drink water again, because that's just going to embarrass her. If you want to see some of the outtakes, some of the more humorous scenes. I should mention Justin, since Justin's actually gone off to read a book. He's like a bit bored with my diatribe here. Stuart was coming up with some of the more poignant names of this thing. I don't know if she's talking about it here or in the church later, about shopping naked. Do you remember that scene when we had to do the sound for that?
I'm afraid that's eluded me. I certainly wouldn't have forgotten that scene.
Oh, hopefully they've put on the deleted scenes on the DVD. And welcome back to everyone that just went and checked the deleted scenes to see if they could see Jean naked. Here's the car scene. Justin, this whole scene, fake audio. What can you tell us about it?
Look, your house actually played a big part in this particular scene, Kristen. You had some of the tidiest creaking doors in Melbourne, and if you weren't able to pick up, you're hearing a house door at this particular point of time, a nice, thick, heavy oak type of number. Also, with the sounds that have been put together in the background here also, Kristen did a very tidy job using some samples of trucks and resurrecting the sound of an engine that was actually on its last legs, which you can finally see them go from below them eventually in the film. And then the steam. The steam, that was a point of contention, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it was whether it sounded too much like tape hiss or whether we needed the actual steam in there. We decided, I think, to get rid of it.
And at the end of the day, it really didn't make that dramatic an impact. I mean, the steam itself gave the idea, and of course, those tidy effects that you'd put together itself and your splicing had definitely pointed out the car had issues.
Tell you what else had issues about that car scene. So there's not much we did in this scene. This is just some of the music. Is it Michael did the music? I don't know. We're listening to him. We don't need to know his name. Did a great job. Excellent job. But the car, it was actually interesting. Her driving, it's, of course, 3 dudes at the back pushing it. Made all the more difficult from Jean leaving the handbrake on when we were doing it. Great little day that was.
Yeah, and again, one of my pet issues, again, within this office scene itself was actually Jean's movement itself. We wanted to try and keep it as realistic as possible, but in a very mundane setting, that sterile office setting. Again, pointing out what direction of your life that you're taking and what impact it is in having, what impact it's having on the quality of the rest of your life, and what is the answer to that itself. Again, as we were speaking before, so more of the sound and effects that we've done in this film are more subliminal than they are in your face. Things like the creaking on the chair, the chafing of the thighs, movement in the office, and of course those more mundane, sterile office sounds is what we've tried to capture, for the fact that there's now, I guess, how would you say it, there's this limbo in Jean's life at this point of time where she's looking, what's life about, where is it going, what impact does your job have, and really what is the meaning of the whole charade itself.
I should mention the editing of this film. This was just an absolute dream. Adam's dedication to continuity, up until this point, definitely. It's basically the whole film just, fell into place in a couple of hours. And it was just, weeks and weeks of fine-tuning. This is, of course, Westgarth Theatre. Great place to see films. Great place to shoot films, we found. Though this, as I think Adam mentioned, was definitely the hardest scene, and we're about to see probably the most difficult cut in the entire film is from here to the next scene.
Another cameo again from your house, Kristen, with that tidy creaking at the stairs at the bottom of the stair. And look, we move into the picture theatre itself, which I can tell you what, this scene I rampantly jumped up and down and carried on until it went down a certain line of thought, oral thought anyway. We had some pretty interesting barnyard sounds in there, which certainly would have sounded like it came from Farm Animals 3 or whatever.
Shot reversed.
But nonetheless, we trimmed it back again, got the ambience a little more believable, so to speak. We had a bit of an issue also with pulling that shutter back on the camera, didn't we? It sounded like someone was dragging their mother's bones over a gyro after The Sopranos had had their way.
Which is in fact the sound we used for a lot of the earliest versions of this film. Until we finalised on actually getting just a normal sound effect.
Now this is where Michael pops in and puts together his nice little sound design itself with the horror movie scene.
Yeah, I mean, we worked for weeks. Michael does one night of work, and what's the only sound you remember from this film? It's that bloody zombie. But yeah, of course, Jean eating her floor popcorn. Not only could they not afford popcorn, they give her a piece of popcorn to eat off the floor. Terrible.
And respect to all you train spotters out there picking up the Cure and the Morrissey shots. Very tidy stuff indeed. Showing some of the tastings and stylies of Adam Stolfo off film.
Yes. Not much sound here, apart from the music. The voiceovers. We actually had to record the voiceovers twice.
We did indeed. Which we did on a very small little compact machine known as a mini disc. I think that's what you kids would label them as these days. A new bit of technology for us.
Okay, I've got to think positive. I'm going to give myself an ulcer if I keep thinking about bad stuff.
Yeah, here we go, a bit of Porsche.
Okay, think positive.
Here we go.
World's mine.
Now the Porsche scene here has got some very tidy local Melbourne drum and bass tech producers, tunes on in the background, a little bit of EQing there obviously for the car slipping around the corner and back and forth and whatnot. Chris, I believe you had something to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, originally the Porsche scene was a lot longer, and eventually I think we had another voiceover there that was cut at a late stage in the film.
Also, I guess there was some of that gratuitous dancing that I'm still hacked upon to this day. And who knows, you might get the all singing, all dancing version of the sound guys at the end of the video.
I think you can bet on it. I think I've got a stutter as well. I don't know if you've noticed. Anyway, church scene. This could have been disastrous the way it was shot, but I mean, edited together well. Came out beautifully, I think.
I mean, at the end of the day, most of the film itself was music and effects. You know, there was the odd needle drop there, and it was all copy-free samples, obviously. ADR was performed over at Master Stolfo's house, who had lovely surrounds in the middle of Surrey Hills through suburban Daywood to kick back and wait for the birds to relax, as well as passing traffic. One of the hardest points I found for myself personally with the film was actually getting the plethora. This was actually the first short film that I have had anything to do with in the entirety of its sound, and the biggest aspect that I thought that I faced, and as well as Kris, was actually getting a decent bank of sounds. Now, as you people are well aware, there's plenty of sources out there on the net, but quality is certainly one of the biggest issues. When we did manage to beg, borrow, steal and rent ourselves for the sound banks, we also put together a number of ADR effects from various locations. And what else did we have to put there, Kris?
Oh, I think you've pretty much covered it just then.
At the end of the day, I'd like to thank Adam Stolfo for asking me on board. It certainly was a huge learning curve for myself. I'm certainly come from an audio background, and when I say audio background, I mean studio and live band engineering perspective. The learning curve on this was certainly exponential, from understanding basic terms on how to blend and mix for a film, how to lay up the sound design for a film, how to put together running sheets, and basically work with other people.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Justin for his excellent dancing, and everyone else involved in the film, but only to a lesser extent. Look out for Alaina 2, Alaina vs Godzilla, all coming out on DVD soon. See you later. Thanks for Stuart, the documentary filmer, for that one.